from Royal LePage Real Estate Services Limited in Oakville, and I am interviewing a series of realtors from across Canada. I spend a lot of time networking with other realtors, getting to know what they're doing, what's happening in their market. It helps me in my business, but it also helps my clients when they're moving out of town and they're looking for a recommendation or a referral to an agent that I know is terrific in other regions. So if you're thinking of a move somewhere, let me know, and I could probably set you up with a great agent in that area. So today, in my second interview with a series of cross-Canada realtors, I am talking to Rebecca Permack of Permack and Associates. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Good. It's early here on the West Coast.
Yes, thanks for that. I forgot about time change when I scheduled an 11:30 call.
8 a.m. Do they? Yes.
You look terrific. You look great. So do you want to introduce yourself? Let us know who you work with, what areas you work, because Vancouver is a pretty big area and you don't work in Vancouver.
No. Okay, so I'm Rebecca Permack with Permack and Associates, obviously with Royal LePage, just like you. And when people talk about moving to Vancouver, they're not actually, for the most part, if they're coming from across Canada, they don't usually end up in Vancouver. They're usually in one of the suburbs in a bedroom community, and they're commuting.
Because most Canadians don't have $4 million to buy a detached lot.
Exactly. And I think, everyone says, oh, I'm going to Vancouver, but very, very few people actually land there. Right. So where I work is kind of in those bedroom communities where those people commuting to work into the city of Vancouver every day are from. So we work, I live in Coquitlam. We work in Coquitlam, Burnaby.
And how far is Coquitlam to downtown?
It's about a 40-minute drive. And
do you have to drive or is there transit?
We have, from in Coquitlam now, like from my house, it's 4 minutes away. We have a SkyTrain. Train. So the SkyTrain is basically the same amount of time as driving, and especially if you're in rush hour. I think it's about 50 minutes from end to end to get right downtown Vancouver from the end of the line. Okay. And so now when that SkyTrain came in a few years ago, we saw a huge shift of people moving out into this area.
Yeah, totally.
SkyTrain does go, as I was mentioning the areas I work. So the end of the line right now is in Coquitlam, and then goes through New West, through Burnaby into Vancouver. So those other areas are also good choices for people that maybe feel like they want to be a little bit closer to the city, or if they have to commute to, say, Richmond or somewhere else.
Right.
And then we also work a little further east of Vancouver, Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows, which are what we're seeing now is kind of the more affordable options for families. So it's a little bit of a longer commute, maybe for those Monday to Friday workers. There is also the West Coast Express train. So if people do have that regular, Monday to Friday scheduled job, unlike us, they can take that West Coast Express train as well, which is pretty stress-free.
And they go all the way out to Port Meadows?
Pitt Meadows.
Pitt Meadows.
Ridge, like East Maple Ridge.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the challenge with that one is there's only I don't know how many, 6 or 8 trains that run in the morning one way, and the same thing at the end of the day coming home, and that's it. So if you miss your train,
right,
driving.
Okay.
Yeah.
You work mostly east of downtown.
Yes, exactly.
Fair to say. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't travel to the North Shore or cross the bridges to go to North Vancouver. I don't really do all of the southern, Richmond, Surrey, Langley areas. We use what they call here the Tri-Cities.
Okay.
So Burnaby, New West, and then the Tri-Cities, which is Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, Port Moody.
Nice.
And then we go out to Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge as well. And it sounds a lot, but it's actually all quite close. This is all, for me, within a half an hour drive.
Okay.
Never dramatic.
And you don't do it totally alone. You work with others?
Yeah, so just this year, actually, I've been a residential realtor for 10 years. And before that, I was 7 years in commercial real estate. And just this year, I decided I didn't want to do it alone anymore because I had a lot more clients and a lot more business that I could service. And so I brought on 2 other quite seasoned realtors. They actually both have more experience than I do, more years under their belts. And they were just looking for a team feel as well, and for us to kind of go it together. And so Christine Tosa and Carolyn Coe joined me this year early in the spring. And we've just been going gangbusters ever since. It's awesome. So now we can kind of, my time isn't divided. I don't spend all my time in my car driving from appointments back and forth. We can really we help each other, but also we have our individual clients. So, we really look for the best fit more than just, geographic specialization.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
A nice added value that you can offer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, it's been awesome because this business can be a little bit isolating.
Totally.
And now we have our team meetings twice a week, so everybody's up to speed on everything always. And talking about how our team is going to approach, the new rule changes for British Columbia real estate or whatever it might be, what challenges we have. We're kind of sharing from the collective expertise and really coming up with the best answer. And it's not, I don't knock any teams for whatever they're doing, but some teams, you've got the one guy or the one woman, and then everyone's like been in the business for 6 months, and that's not how we want to operate. We want a real depth of expertise on the team so that everybody's getting the same service.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we know from headlines that Vancouver real estate is very expensive, and I think that when we get out into the Tri-Cities and the areas that you work in, it's sure not cheap still, but it is more affordable to the average Canadian.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about your average sale prices in the areas that you work, or maybe better than average, because I hate averages, would be a benchmark for a detached home if
sure.
Even if you don't have the number off the top of your head.
Well, I've got some numbers. So in Vancouver, in BC, the way our Lower Mainland real estate market works, wave kind of goes east, right? So Vancouver, like the highest end of Vancouver is right at the ocean, and then the wave goes east. So they sell and they buy East Van, and then East Van goes to Burnaby, and Burnaby goes to Coquitlam, and so on. So we see average home prices decrease further east from the downtown core of Vancouver you go, which is why I said earlier, nobody's buying a house on the west side of Vancouver.
Right.
So in terms of average home prices, like where I live in Coquitlam, the average home price now has actually come down a little bit, and is at 1.1 for this last month. So that's a detached home.
And what would you get for 1 point? Like, would it be a nice home, or would it be?
Like, I live in an area called Burke Mountain, which is basically 10 years young. The oldest homes in this area. I mean, there's old homes, but they've been redeveloped in the new developments now. The oldest is about 10 years. And you're getting, in BC, we also include basement square footage. So you can keep that in mind. You're getting about 3,000 square feet. So that's between a 3 and 4 bedroom home, 3.5 bathrooms, okay size yard, nothing huge, but you're getting a fenced yard and you're getting a detached home.
And you don't got to
suite basement.
Right. And you can move into it if it's only 10 years old. It's not like you're buying something that needs to be gutted.
No, so that in this area, that would be like a nice, ready to live in home. And then in other areas of Coquitlam where you're paying more for maybe the older neighborhoods that have really large lots, those prices are going to go up, but then maybe the homes are going to need a little more renovation.
Right.
But that would, that's say Coquitlam for a detached home, but then you go down into Poco, which is Port Coquitlam is just below us. And the average home right now is just over $1 million.
Wow. And can I still buy a waterfront home in Port Moody? Or I left it years ago.
Actually, Port Moody is undergoing some massive planning and redevelopment now. So it used to be quite an industrial town with the mill there, so the logging and the sulfur mill and all these things, and that's all going away. The plan is, anyways, and it's going to be called the Flavel District. So it is going to be waterfront real estate, the last enclave of waterfront real estate that's even purchasable. Yeah. And it's going to be amazing if it all goes through. There's a little bit of opposition because people in Port Moody like their quiet town feel.
Right.
There's always opposition, but the plans for it are just enormous, and it will be a beautiful, amazing. Yeah,
beautiful location for anyone who doesn't
recognize that there's some serious dollars just sitting, not their highest and best use as a lumber mill in one of the most beautiful communities right next to Vancouver, easy commute, all of those things. So it's just a matter of time before it happens.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, but then I was saying, okay, $1 million for Port Coquitlam, but then for those families who we're seeing now from Coquitlam moving out to Pitt, Meadows, Maple Ridge, the average single family home in Maple Ridge right now is only $833,000. And it's the same developers that were building homes here in Coquitlam.
Yeah.
For $1.5 million, $1.6 million, $1.8 million are now 900, sub 1 million for the exact same home, half an hour.
But just a little further east. Yeah.
So there are a lot of still affordable options for people that, I mean, coming from Ontario, if they're commuting for an hour and a half or an hour plus to go to work, which seems to be pretty normal from what I've heard.
I guess, yeah.
I know. Then there are options out here in that price range, which is still affordable, I think.
Totally.
I mean, no one's jumping into that as their first purchase, but.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And what's happening in your market right now? So certainly out here, we're seeing that things have slowed. More things are coming on the market. Things that are priced properly are selling. What's happening in the areas that you work right now?
I'll tell you what's not happening.
What is not happening?
No, it has slowed quite dramatically. We were looking at average inventory is up about 40%. So there's a lot of homes on the market.
Yeah.
Sales have come down almost 40%, the number of sales that are happening.
Wow.
And you would think, as we were discussing, that might mean prices have dropped dramatically, and yet they haven't. The average over all of Metro Vancouver, that's all those little sub-communities combined, is actually up 9.5% last month over the June last year.
So there's more inventory on the market. There's fewer sales, and the benchmark or the average price has gone up.
Average price went up. Now, in other areas, the average price is flat or is starting to come down, and I think we're just seeing the beginning of this. So our provincial government made some sweeping changes to the real estate market a month ago, June 15th. And so I don't think we've really seen repercussions from that yet. So the July stats aren't out yet. So we haven't seen what this month is like, but I can tell you this month was definitely lower than last.
Yeah.
And, the trades just aren't happening. So while the stats still show this as a balanced market, and it is a true balanced market, and realtors that have been in the business for a long time are like, this is real estate. This is a balanced. But in BC, we were just so used to seeing, the multiple offers happening over and over, and thinking that normal was just constantly going straight up, that a lot of sellers are having a hard time responding, and buyers are still waiting for it to come down more. They're waiting for the bottom, right? As everybody does.
Time it.
Yeah, and you can't time it. You're only going to see it when it's coming back up the other side. So.
Totally. So where do you think there's the best opportunity for purchasing for a buyer in your market right now?
For the first time in a very, very long time, we're seeing a lot of offers that are coming in 6 figures plus below list, which is like the sellers would have just laughed and sent them packing before. And I'm seeing them get done. Or, prices are coming down like that, the reduction, and then they're getting an offer below that, and it's happening. So really, I think kind of anywhere in that, $1.4 million plus market has slowed down quite significantly. So if anyone's thought about making a leap from like a townhome or a lower family home up to something a little nicer, a little bigger, I think there's a huge opportunity to lessen that gap. Because as I was mentioning, in Port Coquitlam, those single family homes between 900 and $1 million are flying off the shelf. We're still seeing multiple offers. We just sold a house in one day last week with multiple offers. So at that price point, they're still flying. People recognize that those are good value. But in the higher pricing, I think there's huge opportunity for someone to make that jump to the next level with the smallest gap right now.
Nice. Well, that's an opportunity for certainly people in our demographic that have families or are moving up. Okay. And lastly, what is your favorite thing about the community that you live in?
One of the things that I loved when we moved here, we were one of the first families in this neighborhood of Burke Mountain in Coquitlam. As I mentioned, it's only about 10 years old. And so everybody was new kind of at the same time. And then all the next new people came in. So the old new people just wanted to like invite them in. And so we've been kind of at the forefront of creating and shaping the community we want. So, we have volunteers that started a gentleman's dropping basketball league. We We do community Easter egg hunts. We've started the community group, and we have over 4,000 members now.
Wow.
Yeah, and people just really want to feel part of community. And I know there's a lot of neighborhoods that, maybe there's been a lot of turnover, and the kids have grown up and moved on, and so everyone's just kind of home and don't come outside. And I love that our community is so connected, and they just want to. We recognize we have an opportunity to shape this into a community that we want.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. So the parks and trails, and it's so green up here that it's so nice that you can get out, take the dog walk and meet people on the trails about every day.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much for taking the time, Rebecca, to talk to me. And if anybody out there is looking to buy in the Tri-Cities area or east of downtown, check out Rebecca Permack and Associates. And I'll post a link to her website with a map that shows, oh no, it doesn't have, does it have a map somewhere on there?
We'll find out. If not, we can
get a map, something that shows the different areas that they service. But Rebecca and her team are a great option. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Fiona.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.